wonderful night for Oscar, 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 who will win? Welcome everyone to Caleb Watches Movies, the channel where I, Caleb, randomly select from one of the many movies that I own and I watch and review them for you, unlike days like today where I am actually ranking a certain category of movies, and like I said, I rank the crap out of them. And this has become a little tradition here at Caleb Watches Movies for the last couple of years, where I take a certain decade of Best Picture winners at the Academy Awards, because this weekend is, of course, the 2025 Academy Awards, honoring all of the films that came out last year, and all the ones that are like, hey, I like you, I could potentially give you an award, but hey, it's just great to be nominated, right, people? And over the last 3 years, we have covered all of the Best Picture winners of the 2010s, the 2000s, and the 1990s. So this time we're going back even further in time to the 1980s, which is the decade that I was born in, so of course I don't recall a lot of the 80s. I was barely in them, actually. But going back and watching all the Best Picture winners of the 1980s, little bit of a mixed bag for me, I'm going to be honest. I'd say it's about 50-50. Half of these films are magnificent and are amazing epics. The other half, I'm wondering, what were you people thinking during those years? Like, really? This is the best that we have? Come on, people. But I'm not going to spoil what my ranking is for you already. That's why you're here. You want to check out my opinion as to what are the Best Picture winners of the 1980s. And a little preface here for this list. This is covering all of the Best Picture winners from the year that they won Best Picture, not necessarily the year that they were released. So wherever that Academy Awards ceremony happened, if it happened in the 80s, they're on this list. Technically, Driving Miss Daisy came out in 1989, but that won the Academy Award for Best Picture at the 1990s Academy Awards, so that was in my 90s ranking. I know that's up with debate for a lot of cinephiles out there. What is actually the year that they won the Best Picture? Is it the year that they actually won the award, or is it the year that they were released? This is my list. That's the decision that I've made. I say let's move on. In fact, I say let's move on to my ranking. Here we go, the top 10 Best Picture winners of the 1980s. At number 10 is, I'll be honest, one of the worst Best Picture winners I've ever watched, and I've only seen it twice, once before, and then once for this ranking, just to see if my opinions changed at all, and no, this film is pretty terrible. This is Terms of Endearment, a story about an overbearing mother who's obsessed with the life of her annoying daughter who cheats on her husband first, but because her husband later cheated, so was secondary cheating, but got caught cheating because she's the wife, he's the bad person, and we should feel sorry for her. Yeah. The only good part about this movie is Jack Nicholson. He's having fun. He's stirring the pot, really. Like, we have these two annoying characters in the mother and the daughter, and then he comes in and he just pokes them a little bit. Like, he pokes the bear and he gets them to loosen up and to do some fun things and stop annoying me with just random everyday problems that you have to call each other about. And oh god, my life. I don't do anything with my life. I'm just the mother to my kids. Like, I don't do anything, but gosh, I'm just so angry at my husband for all the things that he does for me. Terms of Endearment, like, that's the best that you have for that year. Wow. Wow. At number 9 is another movie that I say is not as great as people think it is. I did review this several years ago, and gosh, the comments on that review, you think I had murdered their firstborn child with me not liking this movie, but Chariots of Fire I'm putting at number 9. It's a bunch of white privileged boys running, and one of them is like hardcore Christian and is scheduled to run in the Olympics on Sunday, but that's the Lord's Day, you see, and I can't do anything on the Lord's Day because I need to worship the Lord on that day. Is there anything you can do for me, please? And the other white privileged judges are like, yeah, sure, boy, we can change it to, like, Thursday. Yay! It's really a movie about the best runners in the world, and they're never really challenged. We have the one runner who has to work for it a little bit, with Bilbo Baggins helping him out, but he does just fine, and it's the other runner on his team that's just a little bit better, and he never loses in this movie. Like, never. He runs like this the entire time, and he wins every single race. So when we get to the final moments and he's running, like, what he's gonna win. Of course he's gonna win. No one's beaten him so far. And he wins again, so yay character arcs, people. I know I'm in the minority with this, but Chariots of Fire, just doesn't work for me. At number 8 is a movie that, at least in my theater and music department in undergrad, if you were a music major and this movie was mentioned around you, you would just scold it and hate it because it's not historically accurate in the music community at all, and that is Amadeus. Now, I'm a sucker for Mozart. Like, it's playing throughout this entire movie. It's the story about Mozart and Salieri's hatred towards this man who is just so great at what he does. Yet here is Salieri, and he has praised the Lord and has thanked him for all the gifts that he has given him, but yet curses him because he puts a perfected person like Mozart on this planet at the same time as him. Like, what has he done wrong to offend him? It's a movie about jealousy, and it's intriguing at points, but gosh, whenever I would mention this movie around the music department in undergrad, every music major was like, that movie's terrible because it's not historically accurate at all. This is all stupid. But it's a movie from Salieri's point of view. Like, yes, it's probably not what happened. It's definitely not what happened in historical points, but it's all from his point of view and all of his opinion as to what happened. So if you go into this movie with that mindset, I don't know, I think it's better than what they were making it out to be. Still at number 8 on my list, though. At number 7 is probably the most recent watch that I had to do for this list. I have not watched this movie up until today. That is The Last Emperor. It's a 2.5-hour epic about the last emperor of China. I think it's shot well. I think it is beautiful. In terms of the story, though, and these characters, gosh, they all seem like pretty shitty people. And as I watched this movie, I fully realized that I have absolutely no idea about Chinese history. Like, I don't know all of these events that are happening. I have no idea what they are. And I kind of hate myself for that because I want to be well-cultured, and I want to know histories of different cultures outside of the US, but unfortunately I don't, and this one is trying to educate me at some points. Other points it's like, hey, you should know what this is, and yet I don't. But like I said, the technical aspects of this movie I think are brilliant, and it's a beautiful picture to look at. At number 6 is a movie about two people falling in love on the African safari, and one of them is just growing coffee, and the other one just likes going away and hunting and flying planes, and then they come back and they love each other, and yet he goes away again, and he keeps going and coming back, and keep going and coming back. This is Out of Africa. Meryl Streep is here, and she plays a Dutch princess who marries someone basically for the sake of getting married. I guess he had no money, but I don't know, they're friends, and she was like, marry me, and it's all good, dude. And they're growing coffee in Africa, and things go well, but yet it's not the best of marriages. But there's this ragtag Robert Redford that comes by every once in a while, and it's clear on Meryl Streep's face that, oh yeah, I married the wrong man, because that man right there is pretty fucking beautiful. It's an epic love story of forbidden love, and then it's okay to be in love with these two, but then they don't want to make the full commitments. Yeah, it's a typical epic 80s love story. I did write on my letterbox, though, after watching the movie, like, for a movie being called Out of Africa, these characters spend almost the entire time in Africa, and I think it's just false advertising. At number 5 is the Best Picture winner of the movie that came out the year that I was born, so this is kind of like my Best Picture winner almost. Even though it's at number 5, this is Rain Man. Tom Cruise is being a hotshot car dealer who's trying to sell some cars and can't do it because he has to take care of his mentally challenged brother who has inherited all of their father's money because he was the good son and Tom Cruise is the bad son, you see. Tom Cruise goes into the relationship trying to swindle all the money out of Raymond's account into his account, but yet along the way he develops a love for Raymond, and Raymond also to Tom Cruise. I forget his name, sorry. And it's a beautiful story about two men just growing with love with each other, two stepbrothers falling in love with each other and realizing that they need to be part of their lives and are okay with that. Not much of a character arc, though, for Tom Cruise because, he's he's a dick in the beginning of this movie, and then at the end of the movie, he's still basically a dick. He just might hug Raymond more. So, yeah, he's a dick that hugs more. Cool. At number 4 is an excellent piece about divorce and the fallout of divorce, and God, it's one of those great movies that just piss you off every single time you watch it. In a good way, but also in a bad way. This is Kramer versus Kramer. Meryl Streep plays Mrs. Kramer, who has just lost her identity. She got into a relationship and in a marriage with this guy, and then a year later they popped out a kid, and she's just been a stay-at-home mom for the next 7 years and feels like she doesn't know who she is. So you know what she gets to do? She just walks out on her husband and her kid because she needs to go find herself, you see. I'm all about mental health and taking care of yourself mentally and physically and finding purpose in your life. I absolutely get that. But I'm sorry, when you create a life and that life is alive, that is your responsibility for the next 18 years. Sorry. Oh, I'm sorry, you don't know what your identity is? Well, you and your husband made that kid. So that's your identity. Sorry. But it also showcases the man's relationship in a stereotypical heterosexual relationship, that the dad can be a stay-at-home dad, or at least can and should be a prominent structure in their kids' lives. But then she comes back after 18 months because she found herself in that time, and then they're going over custody of the kid. Like, what? You fucking asshole. Can we all agree that Mrs. Kramer is like one of the worst characters of all time in anything? Can we all agree with this? If not, and I'm on an island over here, then fine. I'm willing to die on this island because this movie angers me, but yet it's so well done. At number 3 is a movie that I actually thought originally was going to be my number 1 because the war scenes, the choreography, the music in this film is excellent, is one of Oliver Stone's best. This is Platoon. I'm a little shocked that I'm putting it at 3, actually. You got Charlie Sheen, a young Johnny Depp in there. You have Willem Dafoe, who's this cool liberal side of the army who's very flamboyant, but yet is willing and is able to get a lot of dirty shit done. Set in the Vietnam War, and of course we all know how messy the whole Vietnam War thing was. But this movie, even though it takes place in Vietnam and we have battles between the Vietnamese and the US, the movie is not actually about America versus Vietnam. This movie is really about two sides of the American military. We have the close-minded, conservative side of the US Army and of this sector of soldiers, and then we also have the extreme liberal. We have the hippie movement. We have the people who are growing their hair out and are doing marijuana and they're drinking. Two opposing sides that conflict with each other, yet they're supposed to work together for this common goal of liberating the Vietnamese. It's a great reflection of how the US operates, especially right now in this country. It's all divided between Republicans and Democrats, conservatives versus literals, the right versus left. It's an excellent picture, and for all of the war films that have won Best Picture or been nominated, this is definitely up there as one of the best. At number 2, I'm placing a movie that it's a movie I always fail to recognize and I always forget about when it comes to the Best Picture winners. But every time I watch it, I am moved because it speaks to my heart. I lived through this kid's life, basically, with his mental health issues and going to therapy and dealing with parents that say that they love them, but they don't. This is Ordinary People. It's about the importance of therapy, or at least having someone that you can confide into, and realizing that's not something to scoff at. Like, that's not something to look down on. That's not something to be ashamed of. Donald Sutherland is going around and at parties, and he is talking to some friends about how his son is going through therapy because their family suffered a terrible tragedy and his son tried to commit suicide. But then Mary Tyler Moore, the mother, comes over and is like, no, we don't talk about that. And stop talking about it. You keep babying our son. You don't have to. And it's clear that she despises him. Yes, she loves him because she is his mother and he's her son. So of course there's always going to be that motherly love there. But you also can tell that just standard traditional love is absent, and she is disgusted by him. I love this movie so much, and it touches me here. I relate to a lot of this, and it's one of those hidden gem Best Picture winners that really no one talks about, but I think more people need to, because it's a beautiful film. It's a beautiful story. And at number 1, of course, is the 3.5 hour epic about a man who wanted peace in his country, but is not willing to pick up a sword or pick up a gun to do any violence at all towards their enemy. They protest peacefully and got pretty far, I think, with their mindset and their community serving around them. This is Gandhi. It's a movie about the importance of words and ideas and how those two things stay here and last much longer than violence does, and is more impactful when a victory is won with words and with ideas, as opposed to someone just waving an iron fist because they're super strong. Oh, okay, yeah, you won here, but if I win with my ideas and I'm convincing you, I think that's more impactful and long-lasting. You definitely don't see people like Gandhi anymore, or at least people with these radical ideas. You definitely don't see them nowadays, and you definitely don't see them live long, because that mentality that Gandhi had, it challenges the people who are in power. And if you are challenging people in power, I mean, look at world history. That typically doesn't last, and it's usually stomped out. Sometimes it squeaks through like a Gandhi or an MLK, but in the end you see some type of terrible tragedy. And actually, this movie begins with the terrible tragedy, and then it goes back in time and we see how he got started in his revolution. But Gandhi is definitely, in my opinion, by far the Best Picture winner of the 1980s. That is my list, my ranking of all the Best Picture winners of the 1980s. What did you think about it? Did you agree? Do you disagree? What is your ranking of all the Best Picture winners in the 1980s? Whatever you thought, comment below and let me know what you thought about it. And as always, if you like what you see here, if you like my take on movies, then hit the subscribe button and make sure you hit that bell. See you the next time I'm releasing next movie review. So guys, I will see you next time on the channel. Have fun watching the Oscars this weekend, but in the meantime, be well, be good to each other, and go watch a movie. Take care, guys.